Western Spring Television. Ours it is.
Here are the top stories of the news. PDP presidential candidate Atiku Abubakar hints talks with Obi and Kwankwanso ahead of polls. A gunman killed divisional police officer of Naka Division in Benue State. And the foreign scene, more than 10,000 teachers may join strike in England and Wales as 23,000 schools face disruption. Good afternoon and welcome to the Spring News at 12 on Western Spring Television. My name is Femi Olanipekum. Presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party, Atiku Abubakar, has hinted that he is meeting with the candidates of the New Nigerian People's Party, Rabiu Kwankwanso, and Labour Party's Peter Obi to support his ambition in the forthcoming election. Mr. Abubakar made this known in a 15-minute interview with the BBC Hausa service on Tuesday. Speaking with the interviewer in the Hausa language, he said both Mr. Obi and Senator Kwankwanso are not threats to his chances of winning at the February 25th poll. While feeding questions on a lingering PDP crisis, Mr. Abubakar said each party has its internal crisis and theirs will not be an exemption, but they are looking to solve every difference in no distant time. According to him, elections at this period are no longer decided by governors, but the voters. And presidential candidate of the All Progressives Congress APC, Bulletin, says a standard bearer of the Labour Party, Peter Obi, is a danger to those who will fall for what he described as his misrule. Speaking at a rally in Awka, the capital seat of Anambra, Senator Tinubu said Mr. Obi lives in Lagos because he is guilty of not developing his home state. The former governor of Lagos said residents of Anambra should not vote for Mr. Obi as president because he was ill-equipped as governor. Also speaking at another rally in Calabar, the Cross River State capital, Senator Tinubu said the People's Democratic Party, PDP, could not provide electricity to roast corn while it was in power for 16 years. He also alleged that the presidential candidate of the PDP, Atiku Abubakar, would sell government assets for himself if elected.
Don't mind them. The lies of their 16 years. They cannot even provide electricity to roast barley. They cannot provide electricity to roast corn. They keep on lying. Electricity that is generated from your hydro dam is centralized. They swallow it. They say privatization. Privatization for Atiku pocket.
Meanwhile, presidential candidate of the Labour Party, Peter Obi, and his running mate, Dati Ababa Ahmed, held campaign rallies in Gombe and Adamawa State yesterday. The Labour Party candidate also visited paramount ruler of Hama Bachama, Daniel Shaga, in his palace in Adamawa. Also present at the rally in Adamawa was an activist, Aisha Yusufu, as well as spouses of the LP candidate. And staying with politics, the Bauchi State Labour Party campaign director, Alhassan Abawu, has dumped the presidential candidate of the party, Peter Obi, for the People's Democratic Party's candidate, Atiku Abubakar. This is coming barely 3 weeks before the presidential election slated to hold on February the 25th. Speaking with journalists in Bauchi, Mr. Bawu said his defection to PDP was to support Mr. Abubakar after he and other Labour Party leaders in the Northeast noticed that they may be wasting their votes for Mr. Obi. He said the Labour Party lacked a structure at the ward, local and state levels, hence the decision to defect to the PDP. The Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC) says it will deploy 707,384 presiding officers for the general election scheduled to commence on February 25th. The commission also said since the electoral education was important, there was a need to infuse it into the national values curriculum of primary schools in Nigeria. INEC National Commissioner and Chairman of its Information and Voter Education Committee, Festus Okoye, said this during the public presentation of the electoral education curriculum and teacher's guide for primary schools. Meanwhile, INEC says the current fuel scarcity in the country might affect logistic arrangements for the February 25th and March 11th general elections. INEC Chairman Mahmoud Yakubu made this known in Abuja at a consultative meeting with the transport unions such as the Nigerian Association of Road Transport Owners and the National Union of Road Transport Workers, amongst others. The electoral chief also urged the transporters to be neutral and non-partisan as they commute INEC staff to and from polling units.
The Commission is aware that this is an enormous task. Election is the largest deployment a nation periodically undertakes, and mobilization of vehicles for election is a large and complex exercise. However, this comes only once in 4 years. What is critical here is forward planning. We have presented to the Union the number and specifications of the vehicles required for the election. We have also indicated to you the locations where the vehicles are needed. Happily, your members are spread across the country. Therefore, vehicles conveying personnel and materials will not travel long distances. In fact, all movements should be within a state and preferably within local government areas.
The presidency has denied claims that the convoy of President Muhammadu Buhari was attacked in Kano State. A convoy conveying President Muhammadu Buhari was alleged to have been attacked in the state on Monday. Reacting to the incident in a statement, the People's Democratic Party said the attack was part of the APC presidential candidate's alleged plot to undermine the presidency, cause confusion, and disrupt the conduct of the 2023 general election. But in a statement, the president's spokesperson, Garuba Shehu, said the stone pelters in the video were in a fight with traffic police. He criticized the PDP for its reaction to the claim and advised the party to look inwards to see why their campaign is destined to fail. In other news, FCT Minister Malam Muhammad Bello says President Muhammadu Buhari's milestone achievements in the area of infrastructure development would be more appreciated after he exits office on May 29th. He made this statement when he featured the 20th edition of the President Buhari Administration Scorecard Series organized by the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture in Abuja. The minister also said the FCT administration under his leadership had completed many critical infrastructure projects which by any standard could compare with any kind in the world.
Part of what we do as an administration in terms of infrastructure is developing roads, networks, as well as public building. When we came on board, we realized that there was a commitment by the previous administration to complete this building, to renovate it, and to bring it back to how it was before. But that was a commitment that nobody was willing to honor. We met Mr. President and told him that there was a commitment that Nigeria made to the United Nations family to complete this building. And then he provided the needed funds. We worked with the contractor, restored the building, completed it to what it is today. And I can tell you, the leadership of the United Nations personally told me that out of New York, the UN does not have any other building that can match the one they have in Abuja. More than anything else, I think the entire nation will appreciate this administration more after we exit because of the amount of infrastructure we have done.
You are watching Spring News at 12 on Western Spring Television. I'll be right back after this break.
The Bulletin Conference of 1884 defined the configuration of Africa, which hitherto existed as a continent of multiple kingdoms and empires under native rulers. The conference, otherwise referred to as Congo Conference, regulated European colonization and trade in Africa as initiated by German leader Otto von Bismarck. The Berlin Conference is often called the scramble for and partitioning of Africa, as each of the imperial powers carved separate portions of the continent for themselves without recourse to racial and cultural identities and differences. 137 years after the Berlin Conference was held, Africa remains a legitimized playground for European nations that sought to exploit its wealth and resources and manipulate its human capital to promote trade and investments of Western powers. Western Spring Television identifies Berlin Conference as a major event in history.
Thank you so much for staying with us. President Muhammadu Buhari has ordered the Nigeria Immigration Service to make the country's border impenetrable to infiltrators ahead of the forthcoming election. This was contained in a statement made available to journalists by the Ministry of Interior. The minister, Rauf Aregbesola, through his media advisor Shola Fashire, conveyed the President Buhari's directive while inaugurating the Katsina NIS Command Office and the rollout of the enhanced e-passports in the state. According to Mr. Aregbesola, the President's orders is between now and the period that Nigeria concludes all the elections, but added that the NIS should make the country's borders impregnable even after the elections. In Benue State, gunmen have ambushed and killed the divisional police officer of Naka Division, SP Mahmoud Abubakar, in Goa West local government area of the state. The DPO was said to have been killed around 3:30 p.m. yesterday while he was returning from Makurdi, where he went for a peace escort. Benue State Commissioner of Police Wale Abbas said the DPO was going for peace escort but was ambushed on his way to Naka. On the foreign scene, more than 10,000 teachers in England and Wales could join the National Education Union strike over pay, with about 23,000 schools facing disruption and possible closure. Teachers are amongst hundreds of thousands of workers taking part in what is expected to be the biggest day of industrial action in the United Kingdom in more than a decade. Civil servants, train and bus drivers, and university lecturers are amongst those on strike. Teachers want a pay rise above inflation and for the government to fund it rather than taking it from existing school budgets. In Scotland, members of the ERS teaching union in Clackmannshire and Aberdeen are also going on strike. Education Secretary Gillian Keegan calls the strikes deeply disappointing, saying the government has met unions' request for an extra £2 billion in school funding in England. But Labour Deputy Leader Angela Prayner accuses the government of deliberately stoking the conflict.
No, I mean, we will look and talk at what is reasonable to make sure that we always retain the best teachers and we attract the best teachers. You know, to have a world-class education system, you need brilliant teachers. That's something we both agree on. Okay. But the other thing we agree on is our children have been through so much disruption in the pandemic that, you know, it really is super concerning for children. They're already behind. We need to help them catch up.
And back here in Africa, huge crowds have gathered at the main airport in Democratic Republic of Congo's capital, Kinshasa, to participate in Pope Francis' open-air mass. Tens of thousands of people attending the Mass at Ndole Airport on the second day of the Pope's visit. About 50% of the country's population Catholic, the largest Catholic community in Africa. The pontiff is scheduled to meet survivors of conflict from the resource-rich eastern part of the country, where dozens of armed groups have operated for decades. A planned visit to the eastern city of Goma was cancelled for security reasons. Earlier, as he arrived, the DRC, Pope Francis urged richer countries to see Africa beyond an opportunity for plundering. The Pope condemned the terrible forms of exploitation unworthy of humanity in the country. Turning to the United States, the family of a motorist who died after being beaten by police in Memphis, Tennessee, have demanded accountability on the eve of his funeral. Speaking at the church where civil rights legend Martin Luther King Jr. delivered his final speech, Tyre Nichols' stepfather, Rodney Wells, and his brother, Jamal Dupree, vowed to keep fighting for justice. Civil rights leader Al Sharpton described the incident as a disgrace to the country. U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris is due to attend the funeral today, a day after she phoned Mr. Nichols' grief-stricken mother. 5 former Memphis officers have been charged with second-degree murder and other counts in Mr. Nichols' death. All 5 are black, as was Mr. Nichols.
The police tried to cover it up. They're still trying to spread rumors about my son that are not true. Anybody that thought that these rumors were true, they are not. My son was not vested with one of the officers. Why? That's just a rumor.
People from around the world watched a videotape of a man unarmed, unprovoked, being beat to death by officers of the law. We talk a lot about gangbangers in the street and what colors they wear. In Memphis, it looks like they wear the blue color and uniform. When you can beat a man, chase him down and beat him some more, and then let him lay there wounded for over 20 minutes and think nothing would happen. You thought that no one would respond.
That's right.
You thought no one would care.
That's right.
Well, tomorrow the Vice President of the United States is coming to his funeral.
Yes.
And people are coming from all over the world.
Yes.
And we are coming.
In business, Governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Godwin Emefiele, says the Apex Bank will continue to accept old Naira notes after the stipulated deadline. Mr. Emefiele spoke when he appeared at an interactive session with the House of Representatives Ad hoc Committee on Currency Redesign and Naira Swap Policy. He said the CBN will also accept the old Naira from banks after the February 10th deadline. Mr. Emefiele made reference to the CBN Act, which mandates the Apex Bank to continue to accept old notes after its expiration. However, the CBN governor did not mention a duration when the banks will stop collecting the old notes.
A 10-day extension for the currency to have, for more and more of this to be collected, and then we'll make more disbursement. But I want to make my last comment. Subject to the content of the CBN Act Section 20, subsection 3, which says, even after the old currency has lost its legal tender status, that we are mandated to collect those monies. And I stand with the House of Representatives on this.
Fuel prices in Cameroon will rise by about 15% from today after the government agreed to pressure from the International Monetary Fund (IMF) to cut fuel subsidies. The Prime Minister's office also announced a 5.2% pay rise for public service workers as a cushion to the impact of the increase in fuel prices. Many unions had urged the government to increase the minimum wage for the private sector. The IMF is expected to provide $74.6 million to Cameroon as a credit facility in March. And still talking business, PayPal is cutting around 2,000 jobs or 7% of its workers as it becomes the latest big tech firm to cut costs. The online payments company says it was forced to make the decision as it faces the challenging macroeconomic environment. PayPal's announcement follows tens of thousands of layoffs by technology giants in the last month alone this year. This year, Google's parent company Alphabet, Amazon, and Microsoft have announced major job cuts. And out of some sports stories, Nigerian midfielder Ebenezer Akinsomiro has completed his move to Italian giants Inter Milan from MPFL side Remo Stars. In a statement, Remo Stars said the teenager, who is an academy product of the club, signed a 4-year deal with the Italian side. The transfer fee was, however, not declared. Elsewhere, English Premier League club Southampton have completed the signing of Nigerian striker Paul Onuachu from Belgian outfit Genk. Onuachu penned a 3.5-year contract with the Saints. He arrives at St. Mary's Stadium with huge reputation, having scored 17 goals in 22 appearances for Genk this season. Similarly, Southampton have signed runs at Ghana winger Kamaldeen Suleimana for a club record fee of £22 million. The 20-year-old, who primarily plays on the left, has signed a 4.5-year deal, keeping him at the club until 2027. In the meantime, Crystal Palace have completed a loan agreement with Arsenal for Belgian midfielder Albert Sambi Lokonga until the end of the season. The 23-year-old arrives after a season and a half of Premier League and Europa League football at Arsenal, where he has made 39 appearances in all competitions. Meanwhile, Arsenal have signed Italy midfielder Jorginho from Chelsea in a £12 million deal. The 31-year-old, who joined Chelsea from Napoli in 2018, passed a medical yesterday and signed an 18-month contract to the option of a further year. Similarly, Chelsea have agreed a British record £107 million deal for Benfica's Argentina midfielder Enzo Fernandez. The deal eclipses the £100 million Manchester City paid for Jack Grealish in 2021. And before we end the news, here is a recap of our top stories. Presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party, PDP, Atiku Abubakar, has hinted that he is meeting with the candidates of the New Nigeria People's Party, Rabiu Kwankwanso, and Labour Party's Peter Obi to support his ambition in the forthcoming election. In Benue State, gunmen have ambushed and killed the divisional police officer of Naka Division, SP Mahmoud Abubakar, in Goa West local government area of the state. And on the foreign scene, we told you that more than 10,000 teachers in England and Wales could join the National Education Union strike over pay, but about 23,000 schools facing disruption and possible closure. You can follow us on all of our social media handles on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Western Spring Television. That ends Spring News at 12 on Western Spring Television. My name is Femi Olanipekun. Good afternoon.